Hey guys, it's Will. Hopefully you're having a great day today. In this one, we're going to go over some top stocks for the first week here in January. And I'm really pumped, super excited to get in these because, a lot of these stocks they've been kind of the top stocks from 2025, but there's a few new ones that I want to get into. And if you're tuned in right now, make sure to just comment down below in the chat box if you got any specific stocks you're watching, any ticker symbols you want us to take a look at. Go ahead, comment below. I know it's kind of a later afternoon, later evening here on a Sunday, so not expecting this to be a very long session as we're getting ready for the week tomorrow. I see some comments here. Hosdado, what's going on? How are you doing today? Luis, what's going on? Sam, how are you doing today? Hope all is treating you well. Joseph says BBAI. Sandesh, hey, what's going on, Sandesh? How are you doing? And APLD says Tim. All right, so let's start it off with Big Bear AI. They've got some big moves. Actually, we got a couple more APLDs. So let me start with the APLD stock, and then we will jump into Big Bear AI. I hear you guys. Okay, so the first stock we're going to go over to our AI defense market, and ultimately what we're watching as the market kind of heats up for this next week is got to be the macro in its response to what we saw over in Venezuela. On one hand, Venezuelans seem to be elated for the most part and excited about what's going on there, while others, especially more, you could say, on the left side politically, are very opposing of the recent intervention with the U.S. into Venezuela around the eradication. Some would say, and a different terminology, but that's kind of the at least perspective of the U.S. and that is the eradication of a dictatorship over in Venezuela, which may impact the market, right? So we could see that either negatively impact the market because it sparks some other high tension situations, or possibly positive for the market because there could be more commercialization and opened trade into South America, potentially related to oil. As you guys know, we've seen that's a big deal. We might see oil and gas as a focus this week. That's definitely going to be the oil and petroleum pre-market ahead of tomorrow. Look at the oil and gas; they're up pretty heavily. After some of that news, is it fully related? There's probably some relation there. So when we look at the AI defense market, again, Big Bear AI. So this company has been consolidating. They recently surged the last year from $1 a share to now $5.95. How many of you guys would like to look at some decisions this year for investing in Big Bear AI? But you see the volatility and you're just like, this is too volatile. I totally get it. As a short-term trader and long-term investor, I hold the company. I've been holding them since $2.80, and it's super volatile right now, for sure. It can be very discouraging if you're in a trade on this stock and trying to ride through some of the news. So let's kind of dissect it. Let's look at it right now, what's going on. Last we saw down around this 550, we were looking for a bounce and continuation up to about $6.50. And what's going on, Will? Hey, Will, how are you doing? Michael, Scutch, Elvis, how are you guys doing? Okay, so this recovery up to 650 is what we're watching. So that would be a continuation on Big Bear up to about 6%, 6.5% up to that $6 range. Might take some time to develop. In fact, they have a previous resistance here that they just broke out above around 575. So Big Bear AI looking bullish. They still got a support level to watch around 575. Let's see if they hold above it tomorrow at market open. If they do, there's more bullish sentiment that would be holding above this EMA. So a lot of times when it's bearish, you see them pushed below that EMA, acting as a resistance. When it's bullish, it's the opposite. Now we saw them very bearish for a couple weeks there through the end of December, holding below that EMA. They recently pushed up above the EMA. They may pull down back to around 575 tomorrow morning. We'll see. But their next bullish target is up to about 650. So a 10% increase potential from there. So that's what we're watching for Big Bear on the technical side. But ultimately, they would be targeting 25% gain up to $7 a share to longer term I think we'd all like to see, $9, $10 a share, but it's taking some time to get out of this kind of consolidation here from left to right. Now, defense companies, big market in defense right now because you're seeing increased spending related to companies like Big Bear AI. You got Amentum signing $1 trillion deal. You have or $1 billion deal. You have $1 trillion deal actually. Rocket Lab signing massive deals, $1 billion deals, and this is all the accumulation of these large defense initiatives for spending in the United States government. So as you see the big beautiful bill heat up and then get into 2026 this year, this is what most people miss. They think, okay, these stocks are in the AI market, we might see them kind of do well. But what they miss is that there's so much investments from the US into these companies. And so just watching that with Big Bear AI last quarter, nothing crazy on the revenue, but they came in with a positive net income and their balance sheet increased to nearly $1 billion. So with their market cap at just 2.5 billion and finalizing that acquisition of that AI company they recently acquired, Ask Sage, they're looking to expand more. They just finalized this $250 million acquisition. It's a large acquisition, and you might say, they're making 25 million a year, this company they just bought, right? It's not that good of a deal maybe, but long term that's looking good because look, 16,000 government teams work with Ask Sage. Big Bear didn't acquire this company just to get money. They acquired this company to get more contracts. If we have another government shutdown, I see that comment there, it's possible you see some delayed rallies in the defense market. If the government's staying open at this time, you're probably going to see continued rallies. More deployments on Big Bear, nothing's changed there. We see them getting into a couple dozen international airports, and it's growing as their very scanned biometric technology is collecting millions of data points, and it's AI driven. It's partnered directly with the airlines, but also they're working with TSA as well as Department of Homeland Security. They got some Pentagon. If you think about it, there's a lot of control happening right now from the U.S. U.S. goes Venezuela recently. You got some involvement in the Suez Canal recently. You have the involvement in the Panama Canal, which Big Bear was a part of. They have their computer vision, which I'm not sure if this was fully on the docket as one of the things that they are partnered with on Palantir. Got to look at where that was. But they're monitoring the Panama Canal, so you got things like that. Anyway, Big Bear AI still on a trend. We're expecting them to potentially rally up into that $7 range. They hold above $5.75 tomorrow. We'll be watching. But before we get there, they still got to make it up to $6.50. All right. Stock. You're still waiting for your stock cup, says Luis. Next stock we got here is APLD. So if we go over to the data center market, a lot of different companies in the data center market. We've been watching ANET this year. They've been growing significantly. They've had a huge year. APLD, big year, multi-billion dollars. They're still only $6-7 billion market cap, and they got $15 billion plus in data center constructions already lined up for this year. So APLD, it's got some big deals there with CoreWeave, BITF. They're still waiting on more revenues. They've got over a dozen data centers that they're anticipating AI companies to want to buy into and use. And when we ran the math on BITF on how old their data center infrastructure was, so data center markets, fastest growing market really in the world right now. It's what's driving AI, really. It's the backbone of AI. And BITF has a bunch of data center AI enabled factories, you could say, with a bunch of GPUs inside that were originally configured for mining Bitcoin. But when we checked on the GPUs and how old they were and how new they were, the GPUs that they use are still very new. I think like it was 2022. So they could definitely supply some AI compute. So they're currently at that $2.50 level, targeting back up to 370 up into this range, which would be a significant increase on BITF potentially. So they're targeting up here to that 350. It's a 35% increase. So we're watching there. And we'll be watching to see if they hold that support level. NBIS is another one. We're watching TSSI. We were trading them last week. They had a nice recovery throughout the end of the week. But let's take a look. APLD. So APLD stock really has had a nice week. They bounced around that $24 range. Without telling me the word yes, can you guys comment whether or not you hold APLD stock? Let me know in the comment section. And if you can tell me if you do, why you do or why you do not hold it. APLD is a company I hold long term. I've been holding them not $3 a share, although we started covering it around $3 a share. I've been holding them since around $8 or $9 a share. I think we're just under $9 a share. And so far, they've made runs up to $40 a share in October. So just really in the last year, they've surged to $40. And then they pulled down recently, but still holding this overall uptrend. So the overall uptrend is like this. You do see them currently at a resistance level. You can kind of see this level back here, kind of around here. You got that resistance back in September of 2025. You get into October, then there was a support through October into November. It was a support. And then you see it as a resistance here in December. And then a resistance in January is where they're at now. Now, here's the thing. They're already holding pretty bullish. So if they continue to rally above about $29 a share, that's what we talked about on Friday, $29 a share, they will have a next target up into this range of around 35, which is a 20% gain. Now, they do have a resistance level, and while they are reporting earnings this week, so they may continue to break out, and we could see them at the end of this week. That's right, the end of this week, we could either see them up to $40 a share. Literally, we could see that. Or potentially they disappoint on earnings, or maybe they even have good earnings, but we see some sell-offs, maybe a little bit of manipulation, distributions, some shakeouts before they continue the rally up to that $40 range. That's what I'm anticipating. So they may find resistance here, sell back down to that $22 range. Now, why would that happen? Well, let's take a look. Inside of StockMate, right? We have our daily live trading happening tomorrow morning. We'll be there if you want to tune on in. Second link below. But inside of StockMate, we have the exciting earnings that come out every week. And the earnings for this week, one of the stocks we got some targets for is APLD. Now, normally this earnings would not deserve the exciting, highly anticipated tag, but everybody's watching APLD right now because APLD is reporting earnings after hours on Wednesday, and their current earnings per share revenue is estimated to be a little bit over 80 million, with bullish targets up to $39 to $45 a share. Now, I would not encourage anybody to go big before earnings. It's never going to work out well. In fact, whatever numbers we see happen after the earnings on APLD, most likely those numbers will not be sustained, because every time you get increased volatility, it's the same as anything in life. It's the same as people that, have an account that grows. You have a growing account, but you didn't do it of integrity, or you didn't know why, you didn't have a repeatable process. You lose it very quickly, just as quickly, let's say. The reason is because you got to grow steadily. You got to have solid foundation, and things got to stay healthy. So that's kind of what's going on here. They might surge or they might dip, but whatever happens, they're probably not going to stay there long right after earnings. It might be a trading opportunity, in fact. So I'm going to patiently wait, not going to enter anything big right before earnings, but we may enter something like right after the earnings call or something like that. So if you want to stay tuned, make sure, again, in StockMate, we got the targets, but we also have live sessions each morning. Second link in the description below to go ahead and join on in. And when it comes to when it comes to the approach with, excuse me guys, my cat thinks it's okay to jump on my desk. When it comes to the approach with the what do you think you're doing, buddy? When it comes to the approach with the earnings, their earnings currently, if they're projected to come in around, what is it, 80 million in revenue, okay, and they're reporting Wednesday after hours, let's say market direction holds and they come in with earnings, we know that they've got Nvidia and Dell and Intel, Hewlett Packard, Supermicro. They've got multi-billion-dollar deals with CoreWeave. They've increased their balance sheet up to 2.4 billion. If they come in with that $80 million plus in revenue and their net income, let's say, doesn't look very negative, they actually keep it disciplined and it looks like, oh, maybe even a positive net income where they don't drag too much on the net income and it doesn't go negative, let's say, we could see the catalyst be these earnings that are coming out this week. So, not a reason to just buy in before earnings. I'm not saying that. However, earnings inevitably are one of the largest catalysts that happen that impact the movement in any company. And so with AI moving the way it is and APLD potentially continuing on that growth trajectory that's expected, if that plays out and they're one of the only data center, I think they're the only data center company that's reporting earnings this week, then that's going to be a huge catalyst. They're going to have a lot of focus on them this week. So APLD potentially can make that run. Some of the targets, as I mentioned in Stockmate that we have, we are going to be watching it closely because there are some levels that when earnings come out, we want to watch. But again, currently just watching into tomorrow, resistance at 29 bucks a share. Let's see if they break out, they continue. And if they do, next level of support, where is it at? It's going to be that previous resistance at $29 a share. All right, what else do we got? Sandesh says Iran. Yep, Iran's on there. Stock. Steve says almost everything seems overpriced. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't agree, Steve. I think that the reality is that there's actually been a blessing in some recent pullbacks that we've had that present some opportunities. The overpriced stuff is the companies that haven't yet shown, like APLD as of right now is overpriced. Literally, it's overpriced right now. But if they come in with that 80 to $100 million in revenue, then we're like, okay, all of those billion-dollar deals with the data centers are starting to hit the revenue, and this company is going to see a very nice Q1, Q2 into 2026. So yeah, it's just relative. You're always going to have companies getting ahead of themselves. It's rare, and that's what makes a good deal, that you find a company that is already seeing really good revenues and the stock hasn't moved yet. But there are a few like that. One could be Redwire, for example. Okay, so we got a few other we've got to go over. And I want to actually check out the Prophecy app. I want to see what it has to say about the analysis. Let's see here. Dun, da, da, da. All right, we got a little loading screen. Things are loading up here. Give it a moment as we get the technical analysis pulled up. Prophecy app, according to Grok, is anticipating they reach above that $30 price point over the next month. Okay, now that's pretty conservative. And let's see how the next 4 hours, a little bit of red. How does this week look? Anticipating a pullback after earnings, but into the next month looking bullish. And man, really good projections on most data center companies, 42%. Okay, so Stock Utility says BKSY. Let's search it up. BKSY. It's going to be Black Sky, and let's see how they're doing over in the space tech market. So when I'm watching Black Sky, a lot of what we're looking at is the AI markets inside of the space tech industry. So, for example, Black Sky, they provide technology that is a AI driven view from the satellites that a lot of governments and different international defense partners are paying Black Sky for. So the data, meaning like the monitoring of these different airplanes down on Earth, the cars, the fleets, probably the oil. You could see some interesting stuff around the oil that they're monitoring via AI satellites. Okay. Black Sky has launched with Rocket Lab pretty significantly over the last year. In fact, they had their Gen 3 satellites get launched multiple times with Rocket Lab. The only thing that's interesting about Black Sky is that their revenue quarter over quarter from 2024 into 2025, the end of 2025, actually was decreasing. They saw a decrease, but annually they were growing. It's just interesting. Decrease towards the end of the year with negative net income. Balance sheet still bullish. They're up to 380 million in total assets. They do have competition with Planet Labs. Planet Labs has similar technology. If you guys have seen Planet Labs, they got the very high quality HD satellite imagery from space down on Earth. And so they do have that competition. Nevertheless, if they're holding about 100 million in assets and they got 100 million a year, so 200 million market cap's holding okay. It's good to see their recent rally. But let's take a look at their chart. I would expect that they're going to be pulling back in the near term, but let's see how it looks. Yeah, so it's possible they make that continued run up into those levels we've seen, up into that $32 range, but that would be very optimistic. They might carry some of the momentum. Let's say if SpaceX continues to potentially IPO, all right, then that's going to be really big. You're probably going to see them rally. Maybe they get up into that $32 range. That's a 45% increase. But in the near term, you can kind of see this levels. In fact, with the exception of a little bit of a hype spike there back on the 19th, just kind of correct it down a little bit. Kind of seems like they're actually at a resistance potentially. That RSI is overbought. The MACD is looking overbought as well. And in that smaller trend, it may be that they pull back down into that $20 range. It's about a 10 to 12% increase or decrease, for Black Sky. So they have been rallying. They were at $12 just a month and a half ago, and now they're up to $22 a share. So they have rallied recently, and they're now at a resistance level that they may get rejected. So just kind of watching RSI, MACD, they may get rejected. But on their news, I do know they had some recent deals. I would just stay away from them in a short-term trade, although I do hold them long-term. We've had quite a lot of success investing in them. We've been covering them for a while. Seen them down around $6 a share just this last year or so. We did get to catch some nice swings with Black Sky. But for now, we'll see if they do break out. That's a move, but they're at a resistance. The risk is just a lot higher than that reward right now. So probably wouldn't enter any short-term positions on Black Sky. That's really just it. When it comes to APLD, we got that full breakdown. You guys saw that, okay? Sandesh wants to see IREN. Let's see IREN, Sandesh. So the data center market is a very growing market. It's fast, and there's other companies other than APLD that are growing. And one of the companies is IREN, right? IREN, we're actually looking for an increase. Last we touched it, we were looking for this 50% increase up to $55 a share. Okay, $55 per share potential increase on IREN. Currently, of that 50%, since our last analysis, it's already made about an 18% climb up to $44 from $37. So we're still looking for that continued push up on IREN. Why is that? Well, IREN has had a lot of momentum similar to APLD. They just signed a Microsoft deal. I think it was a Google deal as well. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was for sure Microsoft. and their net income surged revenues to 240 million a quarter, and their total assets are up to 4.2 billion. So they are in a good spot. So they have, probably right now they got about 3 to 4 times better financials than APLD, but their current market cap is only about 40% larger than APLD. So from a PE ratio perspective, most AI companies, most data center companies would be trading, really high PE ratios. You hear it all the time, like way overvalued, blah, 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 right? Hear it every day. AI boom or AI bubble, you could say. But if you look at some of the practices, for example, from like Warren Buffett, if you ask him like, what do you look for on PE ratio? He's looking for a PE ratio of around 20. Okay. So for a longer term perspective on Iran stock, given their current financials, they're actually in a really good buy area. They're at 24 on the PE ratio, $12 billion market cap. And we've seen them up into that $70 or $80 price point, which would be pretty huge from here because they're only at 40 right now. But given the current levels, let's also get a little more technical, right? We see these previous support levels that they're at here around 45 that they are approaching, kind of breaking out actually and pushing above that 200-day moving average, that green line. So things are looking fairly bullish there. Then when we look at the, let's do a Fibonacci. We haven't done that in a little bit. So how you do Fibonacci, you're going to go from the top highest peak that you can see for the time frames that you're really analyzing. So in this case, we're doing a longer term view, but it could apply to the short term entries. And then you see them sell down all the way to their lowest low, which would be at 33 right here. And then where you would expect them to get to. Now, I think that fair value for this company, or where they would trade comfortably, would probably be around $55 to $60, just given their market cap and how most AI companies are trading at a much higher premium than where they're currently at. So given that kind of $55 to $60 range, let's just call it 60. It's actually entering that golden ratio as we speak. So technically, Iran is looking like an entry according to Fibonacci, and that 0.618, the golden ratio, is where it's getting into. Bullish or a really good trade would be up to this 500 there. That would be a margin for profit on Iran of about 8%. A very great trade would be, in that purple area. It's about a 15% gain. And then, amazing, things are going perfect according to Fibonacci. You're getting up into these ranges. It's about a 35% margin for profit. I think it's quite possible. Again, one thing that I do like about this Iran kind of swing trade, you could say, and we also do day trade it, but it usually doesn't turn. It's almost never a day trade. It's usually like we buy it and we set our stops and our take profit. It just takes way longer to hit the levels, and it's very rare that we'll actually, unless it's like a big spike and we get to just take profits, or things go volatile and you're just managing risk. For the most part, it's not even day trading. I would say for the most part, we're in it for a couple days, couple weeks. But in this case, in that level that it's at a level where it's breaking out from previous resistance around 42. So if you see it break above that 42 and hold that 42, that's the next level of support, and that looks good for them. And I like the mission of this company. You can see what they're doing. They got a couple new deals, including a $9.7 billion contract with Microsoft to build AI data centers. So that's looking pretty good. Yeah. What's a good PE ratio for any company? Kind of depends on your market. Most markets, like if you wanted to know what a bad PE ratio, it'd just be like extremely high. You're looking at a company that probably has, no revenue, or like very low earnings, but they're trading at a market cap that's like huge. A lot of times those ones are just way overvalued and they're prone to very steep downfalls. So that's why if people ask me, how do you invest in AI and not have like such sharp, like down swings? And the answer is literally in the financials. Like, even if I'm trading, when I was trading quantum, they were still way far away from where they are. If you want to make gains consistently in the AI market in 2026 without seeing your portfolio draw down sharply, then there's one thing that you should do. Before I learned this, I used to always struggle with getting into stocks and then being in them and then not understanding why I was in them. And I'd be like, why am I in this stock? I don't even understand the stock. I'm like betting. I don't really know what's going on. And it was always just understanding the financials. Look at the company. They got more, for example, like IREN. I could confidently invest in this company because, they have $4.2 billion in assets and their liabilities are at 1.3 billion. So I can immediately say, look, this company has way more assets, way more cash, more money and investments than they do liabilities, meaning like debt. Now, there's other companies. There was one, I don't want to pick on anybody, but I didn't analyze it. I don't want to pick on anyone here, but it was RZLV. Okay, so somebody just commented RZLV. They said, can you take a look at the stock? If I show you RZLV, the reason that I don't touch it and why I've actually shorted the company, so I'm not like I said, I don't always day trade, but I do short companies quite often. And I started shorting this company around $5-6 a share. People said, why do you do that? They're in the AI market. And the reason why is because, well, they had more liabilities than assets. So that means they got more debt. And then what happened? Shortly after I started shorting them, they announced a bankruptcy. It's not really rocket science, but it feels that way. Like, whoa, how did you know? It's like, I actually just took some extra time to look at the financials. And also like when a stock gets volatile, you don't kind of freak out because you're like, oh, well, I know their financials look really good. So, that's just the market doing what it's doing, but things even out. And so that's really, I would say, if you want to save time, just it's pretty simple, right? It's nothing fancy. It's just, don't guess as much. Take a look at the financials and things will be smoother for you. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. No, I think they're out of it now. They did announce a bankruptcy and then they got out of it. Got some other investors that came in or something. So yeah, they got shook out. Yep. Okay. All right. Quite a few people are saying NUAI. All right. So let's take a look at it. I'll pull it up. Like to get a look inside of the Prophecy app as well. Let's do it. NUAI. Is this doing it? NUAI. Come on. There we go. New Era Energy and Digital. This is going to be the last one, guys. Hopefully you guys are having a good Sunday. All right. So, and again, if you guys ever are wondering about how we look at AI, it's very simple. It's like the companies that have the market that's growing, that have real world usage, okay? Real world usage, and they have financials looking good, chart looking good. All right, NUAI, they were just at 26 cents a share. They surged to $7.59, and they're now down to about 350. Super volatile. But let's take a look at their financials real quick and have a look also at the Prophecy app. Prophecy app is fairly bearish on the company, anticipating that they sell down further throughout the next month, about 3%. And then bearish into tomorrow. Yeah, pretty bearish on this company, spotting out a support level around $3 a share. But let's take a look at their financials once again. Market cap's at 183 million. They got a negative net income, about 5 million per quarter. They burned through. Their revenue's 159K. They got about 13 million in equity. All right. So they're making, 159K again. And that's very, 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 very small amount. And they're currently market cap valued at 185 million. So from just a perspective of their financials, they're massively, grossly overvalued. Now, I don't know what they do. I'm not sure what their focus is. Texas critical data centers, okay, they're focusing on the data center markets. The advantage of building data centers in Texas. They also might get hit with this quarter not looking as good, possibly, because even if they did sign deals, you had like a 60 or 90-day delay in Texas due to storms where no data centers were being constructed. That's why APLD had an advantage, because they actually were still constructing over in North Dakota, all right, during that time. I don't see any press releases. Let's see what they have. Press releases, media, not really a big fan. They don't have much here. What is it that you guys see in this stock that's got you interested? Okay. Land acquisition. Okay. More land acquisitions. Possible AI data center in New Mexico for purchase agreement. Purchase agreement is not a legitimate deal. It's just a purchase agreement. 5 gigawatts, fairly large. Nothing in the books yet, but they could see some momentum there. Most of their marketing's for Texas. The most promising thing I see from them is in Albuquerque, or in New Mexico. Excuse me. I don't know if it was Albuquerque. But yeah, so I would say, yeah, I'm not really that interested. Financials just haven't caught up, and they're way overvalued from a market cap perspective. If you're looking for a market cap, like, I think $80 million market cap in CTM, and they're in the agentic AI for defense, and they're already doing like 15 million a quarter. They got positive balance sheets. CTM stock looks even better. But I'm not that interested in this one for that reason. Financials just don't really line up. Look at that volatility. Just in a month, you had it go from $7.50 down to $3. I mean, that's, it's super volatile. I probably wouldn't touch it. You could see some, momentum, things like that, but I just wouldn't touch it. You can just tell by the way they recently kind of IPO'd and then sold off, and now they got some manipulation. I just wouldn't touch it. So that's going to be really it. But we will be watching some of the top data center stocks tomorrow morning. We'll be watching APLD. We will most likely be continuing our trade. We have some trades going for TSSI along with Big Bear AI, shorter term stuff alongside our long-term holdings. And Quantum, guys, I'm not sure if I'm going to that Quantum event. I already got the media pass and everything, but we'll see if I'm going. I may or may not be flying tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. May or may not. I'm not sure. But I will 100% be there at Market Open tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. If you guys want to tune on in, it's going to be the second link in the description. Now, you get a free t-shirt, and you get our targets for the week along with the community there in Stockmate. If you'd like to tune in, learn technical fundamental analysis, watch my entries, watch my exits, it's going to be the second link in the description below. We also did a full breakdown of this prophecy app. Did you guys see this? Kind of getting some nice insights for projections using Grok or OpenAI or Claude. We did a full breakdown on this, and we had the best offer ever for you to get access for the next 6 months completely free to the prophecy app. All you have to do is click the first link in the description. Go have a look at that offer because it was tremendous. And I think it'll be valuable for you if you haven't considered using AI. We use it. It saves us a ton of time, and we're innovating left and right. We got some great developers, great team, and we have extremely good usage. People are signing in every single day. Investors are signing in every single day and using this right now. It tells you the nearest support levels, nearest resistance levels, where stocks are projected to go. Any stock you want from the top models in the world, you can go ahead, search it. News, you can get the summaries of the different news articles. It's all there for you in the first link below. And when you sign up in the first link, you actually get the Stockmates that is mentioned 6 months free. So have a look there if you're considering. Either way, simply take a look. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. See you, Michael. Thanks for tuning in. Louis says, I need a coffee mug. I need a coffee mug. All right, I could send, I think we got some links there. Let me see if I have a link here. HT, if I could type it out. It's going to be get stockmatehq.com/ apparel. There you go. I think that one should have the cup there. And you can go find that link in your email as well. Steve, thanks for tuning in. Michael, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you all. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.